Okay, the public hearing by the Downers Grove Planning and Zoning Commission will now be called to order July 6th at 7 p.m. Would you please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. Roll call.
All right, Frankovic.
Here.
Patel.
Here.
Lincoln.
Here.
Eberhard.
Here.
Reyes is absent this evening. Wolf. Absent. Barry.
Here.
Chairman Rickard.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. Thank you.
Okay, before we get started, I would just ask anybody, if you have an electronic device, phone, anything that makes noise, if you could please put that on silence or powered off, either one, that would be appreciated. Also, on this side of the room, there are meeting agendas, as well as a QR code on the back if you choose to follow along on a device of some type, or all the material will display on the monitors up here in the room as well. And then lastly, there is a sign-in sheet. I think it's making its way around the room. If you could please sign that, that's just to note in the minutes that you were in attendance tonight. So with that, first item we have on the agenda is approval of the meeting minutes from the June 1st meeting. Are there any corrections to the minutes?
Yes. On page 15 of 22, it indicates at the end of the paragraph where I last spoke said I did see where repurposing the structure was a bad thing. The actual is I did not see repurposing the structure as a bad thing.
Okay.
Thank
Any
you,
other
Commissioner Barry. We'll make
corrections?
that change.
Any other corrections? No. Okay, with that one adjustment, all in favor to approve, say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain?
Abstain.
Okay, minutes are approved. Okay, with that, we have two public hearings tonight. First one is 26 PZC 0022. That is the rezoning at Cross Street. That will be the first public hearing. And then secondly, we will have 0020, which is the B3 property on Ogden Avenue. So before we get into the public hearings, I just kind of want to summarize the process we're going to go through for the public hearing here. First, we start off with the petitioner's presentation. They'll come up to the podium, present their petition, and that will be followed by questions from the Plan Commission up here. Second, we'll go to the public testimony. That will be your opportunity to come up and speak regarding either one of the two petitions. Thirdly, we'll go to the staff report. A member of staff will also go through the item from the staff's perspective, followed by questions of the Plan Commission. And then we go to petitioner rebuttal. We have the petitioner come back after everybody else has had an opportunity to speak to address or comment on anything that's come up during the public hearing, and then to make any kind of a closing comment or closing statement if they choose to. At that point, we'll move from the public testimony portion to commission discussion up here, where we will deliberate up here amongst ourselves. We'll make some comments as we see fit, and then ultimately call for a motion to vote to either approve with refinements, or deny the application. This is a recommending body only. We're not making final decisions here tonight. Our recommendations go on to the village board. They are the elected officials that make the final decisions, and they will hold a public hearing as well, where you'll have another opportunity to come back. If you leave this meeting and there was something you wanted to ask, or you have further questions, you do have another opportunity to come back at a future date to address either one of these petitions. So basically, the purpose of this public hearing is just to go through this process, gather facts, information, and testimony so that we can forward a report on to village council, which will include exhibits from the meeting and the meeting minutes. And then, as I said, they'll take this up at a future date. So with that, these are both public hearings, so we do need to swear everybody in. We can do that as a group now. So if you do intend to speak, if you could please just raise your right hand. And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, state in the affirmative, I do. Okay, thank you. And if any time during the meeting, sometimes we tend to drift away from these microphones and some people have a hard time hearing all the way in the back. If you're having a hard time hearing, just kind of give me a sign of some type and we'll make sure that we're leaning into the microphones and that so that everybody can hear. Okay, so with that, the first item, still getting used to this new agenda, the way it's laid out. Case PZC 0022, petitioners requesting zoning map amendment to rezone the subject property from R1 residential detached house 1 to R4 residential detached house 4. So at this time, you want to come up and introduce yourself for the record, and then the floor is yours.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Brad Smetana, representing Cross Development at the 4908 Cross Street property. What we have at the 4908 Cross Street property, it's existing property consisted of 4 25-foot parcels, 125 feet in depth, and it is currently zoned as R1. When it was that area in the Belmont area was annexed into Downers Grove, everything in that area was zoned R1, or in that general area that we're speaking of. And as I go through here, you'll see we'll reference the zoning map as well. But as people have come through here and started to build homes, they have applied and secured approval to get to an R4 zoning, which is more consistent with the neighborhood and the surrounding area. On the middle of the 4 25-foot parcels currently, there's an abandoned building that's there. It's been, the neighbors told me that someone owned it for 25 to 30 years, but didn't live in it. And then it was sold last year to a couple that had intentions to building, but it was outside the budget when the numbers came through. So then they sold it this year to us. And now I'm here today standing in front of you asking if with our intention to take those 4 25-foot parcels, consolidate them into 2 50-foot parcels and build 2 single-family homes. I probably should have started there. Sorry about that. But this is just an aerial image of the property and the home in between. You could the home to the south there was previously built, same type of deal where they had an R1 zoning, 2 25-foot parcels, consolidated to 50-foot parcel, and built an R4 zoned home there. This is just more visuals for you. The current plat of survey with the 4 parcels there, the intention would be to combine lot 3 and 4 and lot 5 and 6, and then build on each one respectively. That aerial image I put together there kind of shows the footprint of the layout and how it demonstrates what's there. And then also the picture to the right there is what you can kind of see. Everything at one point was R1, and all the orange boxes are homes that were built, most specifically the one I previously referenced to the south of me, with the 2 25-foot parcels, and then to the north of me, a couple blocks is exactly what I'm requesting to do here today. They had the 425 and they split it and built 2 50-foot parcels. So that is the request that we have here today. This is a lot of pretty busy slide here with all the zoning map amendments and review and approval criteria. So I'll keep it high level. And I'm sure you've had some time to look through it. But I'll touch on each of them. The first one references existing uses and zoning nearby, which I've kind of spoken through already, which it's primarily single family residential, R1 and R4, with basically all new single family construction nearby being adjusted or to R4. Item number 2 and 3 reference how they affect property values and the diminution of property value, making sure that it's offset by an increase in public safety. This proposal here today will do nothing but increase property values in the surrounding area. And with the current condition of it, with the abandoned home, any diminution of property value, which I don't believe there is any, would be offset by the demolition and getting that home off of that property. Number 4, the suitability of property for zone purposes. As it currently stands, the dimensional standards of the R1, they just don't align well with the geometry of the property. Basically, it falls It falls well within the R4 standards, consistent with the neighborhood and the adjacent buildings next door. You know, the R1 standard pushes the home further back than the surrounding neighborhood homes are built. And then the length of the time the property has been vacant as zoned, at least a year. And I'm told that, as I previously referenced, the gentleman that owned it would just come and keep up to it he lived somewhere else, but just for the last 25, 30 years, whatever it was. So a long time. The value of the community of the proposed use, like I had previously suggested, the demolition of the unsafe and abandoned home there, along with the increase in property value of the surrounding homes, allows the orderly redevelopment of the property, which is consistent with the surrounding land use. And then the last bullet here is how it aligns with the comprehensive plan, number 7. I think it aligns well with the comprehensive plan goals to maintain the single family neighborhoods, encourage compatible infill development, and promotes reinvestment in existing residential uses out there or areas. So there's a lot more here, as you can see, but I just wanted to touch on those. I think it falls well within the review and approval criteria. And that's all I have for you today. So thank you for your time and consideration.
Okay. Any questions for the petitioner? No questions?
Actually, I do have one. What are the proposed sizes of the houses that you're looking to construct?
It'll be around, the plans are not finalized, but the R4 standard allows a 5-foot offset side to side. I think R1 is a 7-foot side to side. So it'll fall within that 5-foot, which is 40. It'll be a little shy of 40 feet wide.
Okay, and
On the 50-foot wide
total
lot.
square feet of the home roughly?
2,500 to 3,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions for the petitioner?
What's the specific reason why you need it to be R4 to do the construction you want to do? What is it about R1 that won't allow you to?
R1 has a 40-foot setback from the road instead of the 25-foot setback. It basically puts the house in the neighbors behind you. And it's not consistent with the neighborhood, basically, and how it is in that area. All the houses along the street are 25 feet off the road.
Okay. Any other questions for the petitioner? Okay, thank you. We'll give you an opportunity to come back. Okay, before we get into public comment then, just because of the number of people that we have here, and just to make sure everybody gets a chance to be heard and be respectful for everybody's time, we'd ask you to try to keep your comments to 5 minutes, if at all possible. So with that, if there's anybody who would like to speak at the public hearing for this rezoning, now's the time. Go ahead and come on down. Is there anybody that's here to speak for the rezoning for the residential property? If you want to come on down here, sir, and if you could just state your name for the record.
Name is Mike Baykosh.
I need you to do that up here so it gets recorded.
Mike Baykosh.
Okay, thank you.
I live in the house due north of where this is going to take place. My house was built in the late 40s, from what they can tell. I don't know if they came in after when my house was built and then shot the surveys and everything, but the one corner of my house is only 3 feet off my property line. And this concerns me if he goes to a 5-foot setback, that there's only 8 feet then between his house or garage and my house. And I just would like to make sure that if this does go through, that the proper drainage, since this is higher than me, gets installed so that his wash off doesn't flood my house. That's about it.
Okay, yeah, generally, that will get covered at time of building permit review. It will go through a stormwater engineering review.
Right.
And all those requirements will be checked at that time.
All right. I worked for DuPage County for 10 years, so I do know the system.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak at the public hearing for the rezoning on Cross Street? Yeah, there's no sign-in sheet or anything, so if you anticipate speaking, you could go ahead and kind of move up to the front if you need to.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Bill Reynolds. I live across the street from the property that he would like to rezone. I welcome it. It's been vacant for, like you said, 25, 30 years. The gentleman that owned it was a great guy. Just didn't keep it up. So this would greatly improve our block. So bring it on. 2 new homes on my block. I'd love it. Absolutely love it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak at this time? Okay, hearing none, we will go to the staff report.
Okay, I'm going to proudly introduce our intern Nathan, who's gotten to spend some time with us this summer. This will be his first case, potentially his last one to present this summer while we still have him. He is a graduate student at UIC this year or the last year, and will be finishing up his studies next year, right? So welcome, Nathan.
All right, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Nathaniel Vanoski. As Jason said, I'm the planning intern for the Village of Downers Grove for this summer. The petitioners are requesting a zoning map amendment from R1 Residential Detached House 1 to R4 Residential Detached House 4. This is to allow for the eventual construction of 2 single-family homes on the property at what is commonly known as 4908 Cross Street. The subject property is located southwest of the intersection of Cross Street and Haddow Avenue and consists of 4 lots of record. This property is currently zoned R1. Noticing requirements were all met, including mailing notices to nearby property owners, publishing a legal notice in the Daily Herald, and posting a sign at the location. Staff received 4 inquiries by phone from the public, which were all general in nature. The subject property was The subject property was annexed into the village in 2012, upon which it was given a default zoning classification of R1. Many of the lots near the property have widths of 50 to 55 feet, which is in line with the R4 zoning district and its minimum lot width requirement of 50 feet. The default R1 category currently on the property requires a minimum lot width of 100 feet. Since 2012, many property owners have chosen to pursue rezoning to allow for the bulk requirements of the R4 district. Many of them can be seen on this map in the darker orange color. The village's comprehensive plan, guiding DG, designates the subject property as single-family detached. When considering this map amendment petition, staff considered the recommendations from the comprehensive plans section on housing and neighborhoods. Residential development of 2 single-family homes zoned R4 is in line with recommendations from the guiding DG comprehensive plan, as well as being consistent with the land use pattern of the surrounding neighborhood. Shown here are the standards of approval for a zoning map amendment. Staff finds that the criteria have been met regarding this petition. If the Planning and Zoning Commission agrees, a draft motion can be found on page 30 of tonight's agenda packet. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for staff? Mr. Lincoln?
So I noticed in our packet, the minimum lot area regulation is still not going to be met after this. Do we have any particular residential zoning classification that would allow for, because it looks like it says minimum is 7,500, this is going to be 6,250. So is there a zoning type, another R, something rather that would allow for that? Or is it basically because it's such a not very wide lot or east-west that it's just going to be non-compliant regardless?
That minimum requirement and has been alluded, there will be a lot consolidation that will occur after these approvals, assuming it's approved. And with the lot consolidation process, we use that to bring lots to come closer in conformance with the underlying zoning. So if it is rezoned to R4, this will get it closer to that area than the 25, I believe, by 120 foot wide lot. So that would be appropriate for this.
So basically, I guess in summary, we're very non-compliant now. This will still be non-compliant, but much, much closer.
Closer to conformance.
And that's about the best that we're going to be able to do based upon the sizes of the lots as they were built before they were annexed.
That's correct.
And Nathan, what did you say what the width allowed is for an R4?
The R4 requires a minimum lot width of 50 feet.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for staff? No? Okay, we'll go back to the petitioner again. It's just an opportunity for you if you want to comment on anything you've heard since you were up here last. You're not obligated to, or if you'd like to make any last comments of any type, now would be the time, but you don't have any obligation to. It's your call.
Just thank you for your time.
Okay, discussion up here.
It appears consistent with what we've done in the past in this particular neighborhood. The setback's going to be the same. I took a drive by there today, saw the existing house. I've seen the setback. They're all kind of lined up there. They're all kind of lined up pretty consistently. So I find no reason that this we shouldn't approve this the same as we've done in the past in the other houses in the neighborhood.
Yeah, I appreciate the question about the lot area. And it does, it's too bad we're not getting it totally in compliance, but we have looked at cases like this before where we got something a lot closer to compliance. And again, I agree that it complies with the comprehensive plan specifically, and the values of the houses that they can develop on these lots is going to be more in line with what the neighborhood is showing. With a 25-foot lot, I don't know what you could build, really.
Yeah, I agree with the other.
We have some people way in the back that I saw a couple hands up, so we'll try to lean into here a little bit more.
I agree with the other commissioners. It doesn't seem like there's any way to keep these separate and make them buildable for any reason. So it falls in line with the comprehensive plan. The size of the homes is going to be reasonable for the lot sizes that's going to be in existence once they're consolidated. So I don't see any reason to not approve this, and I believe all the criteria has been met.
Anybody else?
I agree with all of the previous comments, and I feel the standards of approval have been met.
Okay, I also feel like this is pretty straightforward and that the applicant has met all the standards and the petition meets the standards. I'm inclined to support it myself. Any last comments before we call for a motion here? No? Okay, is there a motion regarding PZC 0022?
I'll make a motion. Based on the petitioner's submittal, the staff report, and the testimony presented, I find that the petitioner has met the standards of approval for a zoning map amendment as required by the Village of Downers Grove zoning ordinance and is in the public interest, and therefore I move that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend to the Village Council approval of 26-PZC-0022.
Okay, motion by Mr. Patel. Is there a
I'll
second?
second.
Mr. Lincoln, seconds. Roll call.
All right, Patel,
Aye.
Lincoln,
Hi.
Everhart,
Aye.
Barry,
Aye.
Frankovic,
Aye.
Chairman Rickard.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Thank you.
Okay, let's recommend for approval. You'll get a future meeting date at Village Council level. So
Yeah, those of you new again here, we don't have this scheduled yet. What we always recommend with these PZC cases is to check the council agenda packets, which are published at the end of business, the Friday before the Tuesday that the Village Council meets on their regular schedule. And you can always call our office too to find out when that's going to be scheduled too. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move into the second public hearing then, which is case 26 PZC 0020 at 1205 and 1219 Ogden Avenue. This is establishment of a PUD map amendment from B3 General Services and Highway Business to B3 PUD General Services and Highway Business Plan Unit Development. Vacation of a public right-of-way and a plat of subdivision and a special use for a drive-through. So with that, I'm not sure who's going to be doing the presenting. If you want to come up and just introduce yourself for the record, and then the floor is yours.
Commissioners, Michael Gatto on behalf of Excite Real Estate, the developer. In attendance, I also have Ellie Lottie from Dutch Brothers and Justin Opitz from Kimley Horn on the traffic team. We are pleased to present a redevelopment of the parcels located at 1205 to 1219 Ogden Avenue. We are proposing to raise the two structures that are currently on the site and build two new structures on the site, a Dutch Bros drive-through, and then a multi-tenant retail building to the west on the residual land. We are proposing this to be done in a phased development. We're going to be doing the Dutch Brothers and all the site work minus the building on the western portion in phase one, and then phase two, the development of the second building on the western portion. These are the elevations of the Dutch Bros. The entitlements we are requesting are a planned unit development, a special use for the drive-through, a zoning map and text amendment, and then an alley vacation and cross-access easement with the neighbor to the south. We are also looking for a proposed deviation on the Lynn Scott Avenue side yard setback, reducing it to 5 feet. Next, we have the zoning map amendment review criteria. All 7 criteria are satisfied. Next, we have the planned unit development review criteria. All 5 PUD criteria are satisfied. The special use drive-through review criteria. All 3 of these special use standards are satisfied. As part of our due diligence, we had Kimley Horn conduct a traffic study for the area. The findings of that study, and if we want to expand further on that, Justin is here to answer any questions you may have. But in general, the addition of Dutch Bros traffic can be accommodated by the existing road network. And under typical peak hour conditions, all traffic is expected to be accommodated on site. Special attention was also paid to the school campus, and we had collected additional data on the peak hours for school pickup and drop off. We conducted a neighborhood meeting and we've had multiple conversations with both of the neighbors to the south. The residential neighbor to the south had 3 main issues that were discussed. Traffic generation, sound mitigation, and headlamp light pollution. In hearing that, we reviewed more traffic data, increased our traffic data collection. We also are installing a privacy fence along the southwest property line in order to mitigate any noise or light pollution that may go towards them. The business owner to the south, his main concern was access through the alley to his existing parking lot. In order to satisfy that, we are offering a universal cross-access agreement unilaterally with the land that will run with the land upon sale, rather than just individual agreements outside of the easement. Here's a Dutch Bros operating overview. The way that they run their business is very streamlined. They have a running order system. So what that means is that there's no speaker box. As you pull up into the queue, there are individuals with handheld tablets that will then take your order in order to expedite the throughput of the drive-through. In addition to that, it is a beverage-focused menu with only grab-and-go food items. So there are very few food prep delays while placing your order. We're also employing a 2-lane drive-through. So our stacking is done efficiently, and this will also accelerate the throughput of the drive-through. In addition to that, there's also a dedicated walk-up window. Here, highlights on the site access and circulation. Through the Kimley Horn traffic study, they advised us and recommended some changes to our plans, and those are enumerated on here. Ogden Avenue North access, right in, right out pork chop median, no left turn sign for outbound circulation, minor leg stop control, which is a stop sign and a stop bar, and 1 inbound and 1 outbound lane. On the alley and south access, we are employing minor leg stop controls, which are stop signs and stop bars. And then on the Saratoga side, there's no queuing permitted on the Saratoga Avenue at any time for the Dutch Bros. As I mentioned earlier, we have a phased development approach. And so what we're doing is we're mitigating any of the concerns on the grand opening. And what we're allowing is the entire site to be used for circulation through that process for as long as necessary until deemed responsible to build that building on the west side. Based on this plan, we're increasing our car stacking from 20 cars to 40 cars. Dutch Bros is committed to on-site traffic management personnel in addition to the regular staff. And this will go into effect on day 1. Part of the Dutch Bros business model is to distribute the volume across multiple stores rather than consolidate at any individual store. As you can see, this is a list of publicly available stores that are going to be opening in the Chicago MSA, and there are over 20. We have 5 that are now open. We have 8 under construction, 6 that have reached entitlements and are going to shift under construction, and then 3 in corporate review. If you have any questions, we'll be here to answer them.
Okay, thank you. Okay, questions for the petitioner? I have a quick question. I don't know if you or your traffic person wants to answer it. So I think the biggest concern is the amount of traffic and the stacking and the automobile movements and all that. What have you learned from some of your other facilities, and what are you doing here differently to alleviate some of those concerns and maybe address what I heard you mention that you had stacking for 40 cars, and that is all within your property lines and not out into the public right of way for
Yes, sir.
stacking for 40.
Yes, that's accurate.
Yeah, if you could just speak to some of the issues you've had before that, complaints that you get from people about traffic and how you're dealing with that here differently.
I think I'd like to bring up Justin Opitz to discuss some of the traffic conditions. He is the traffic consultant on this. So from a quantitative standpoint, he can address those. From an operational standpoint, I can have Ally come up and we can discuss operationally, qualitatively, how do we manage it?
Okay, thank you.
Everyone, as Mike said, Justin Opitz with Kimley Horn. We prepared the traffic study. So I'll kind of talk a little bit about what we're doing at this site to manage traffic. And then I might kick it over to Allie to kind of talk a little bit about the specifics of the operations. So 2 points for this site. First is the access or the driveway onto Ogden Avenue. Right now, there are 2 driveways for the 2 parcels. We are taking that and combining it or consolidating it into one, and then only permitting right in and right out movements. So that is the least conflicts possible with the driveway you can design. So that means people traveling east on Ogden turn right in, and then they are forced to turn right out to head back east. If you want to head west, you can use the light at Saratoga, which just makes things function a little bit more efficiently and safely for the site.
Can you, as you're speaking about those things, can you flip back to the slide that shows the site plan? It's just helpful to see it while you're.
This one helpful, or do you want the other?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. Thank
Okay.
you.
So yeah, I was kind of talking about this, pointer disappears on there. So the driveway is at the top or the north side of the screen there. So I was talking about the right in, right out at the driveway. The second part of this is the kind of grand opening traffic mitigation plan. That's what you see here up on the screen. So Mike was mentioning we currently have 20 spaces for drive-through stacking on the site during typical conditions. This would be at the start of day one, a grand opening scenario where we do expect traffic volumes to be a little bit higher, just because it's a newer product to the market. People are going to be interested and want to try it. So this scenario allows us to provide more stacking on the site to accommodate that demand. So we're effectively doubling our capacity from 20 up to 40, and we do anticipate that will handle demand without any spillover to the adjacent rights of way. And if you do want us to expand a little bit more on exactly how that will work, Allie can kind of step through, staffing, how it works and things like that.
Yeah, sure. That'd be great.
Hello, my name's Allie Lottie and I work for Dutch Bros. But to kind of walk you through the line mitigation here. So as you can see in our traffic plan, we have 40 car stack and we have 4 to 5 what we call line busters, and they are out in the line taking the orders before they get to the window. And our average car time from the window is on average about a minute. And when that happens, if we have more than a 40 car stack, we deploy what we call drink runners, and they would run out drinks or the customers grab and go items to run them out to be able to help get the line out quicker, to be able to mitigate any line we have. We also hire third-party traffic management, and so we will deploy them as long as possible. So if we need them for a week, a month, they will be there to help us be able to keep the traffic on our property instead of in the street. And then I would just elaborate inside on operations. We have somebody who is deployed on each position to make sure that the drinks and the food items are out as quickly as possible and efficiently, so that we don't have any issues with getting the drinks out to the customers in a quick manner.
Okay. Questions for petitioner?
I have a
Ms.
quick
Brantwick?
question just about the service. When you have the orders coming out, are you alternating lanes? Because I'm seeing this kind of condensing from the 2 lanes down to the single exit lane, and I'm concerned about there being, potential backup if there's an error or something like that. That could create a situation, especially, if that light at Saratoga is red, people trying to get out, it could get kind of messy. So could you speak a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do a zigzag is what we call it. So when we're taking the orders, they go in zigzag so that they come in order. And then when they're exiting, we have an exit lane as well. So say we were backed up because of Saratoga light, we would run out those cars. So as soon as the light turned, we would be able to mitigate that by having, 8+ cars leave at once rather than 1 car at a time.
And if you have a situation where, somebody's order is larger and somebody has to run it out and they're still stuck in the queue and say they're 4 back from the window, what do you do in that situation?
Yeah, we would run their drink and they'll be able to get out through the exit lane.
Which is the exit lane?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
On the northeast corner of this plan, you'll see a hatched line.
Okay. I thought
That
that
is
was
the
green
exit
space.
So that's pavement that has striping on it.
Yes.
Yes.
Understood. Okay.
Question. So on the offhand chance, despite your best efforts, you do have a backlog and there's a stacking here. Where are the cars going to be? Are they going to be Ogden? Are they going to be in Saratoga? Where would they be in the event this happens? You can't get them through.
Yeah, what we have done if we run into this situation is we can close the drive-through and ask them to reroute and come back when there's room in the line, or we can have them park and come up to the walk-up. So there's two options there, but we're going to make sure that they don't stay on Saratoga.
How?
Yeah, I was going to say, how
Yeah,
how
so
many
through our
parking spots do you have?
Yeah, so through that third-party traffic control, they are able to help us mitigate that line and ask the customers to come back when the line isn't full anymore. And we've done that at other locations, and it works really well just in that first opening. But the goal is that we keep the line moving so that we don't have an issue where the cars can keep filling through the line and we don't have the stack.
Like, what does that look like? Are they standing on Saratoga waiting for it to back up and literally going to their window and saying, move it? Are you putting cones to block the drive-through? Like, is this active or just kind of like, kind of just waving at them? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, so we have A-frames, which is a signage that we put out if the lot is full. And then we also have cones so that the customers can't continue to back up onto the main road.
And it's worth noting that on here, we have shown the cones that are out there. We've also shown at least one location for traffic management out on site. I believe that we may have more as necessary on the site, depending upon how the flow works. On day one, it'll be full hands on deck, making sure that there are no cars stacked up.
Can you indicate where the parking is? I'm only seeing like 2 spaces and a handicapped. So where would the additional parking for walk-up customers be?
So we have overflow parking for the DB crew down in there. If we need to open that up, we could potentially do that.
Are you intending to use the extra lot space to the west there for parking temporarily?
The developer's taken the burden on holding back any development on that western side, but improving all of these site conditions as if there were a building going up there. We're slightly modifying some of the crosswalk area in order to maintain traffic patterns through there. But yes, that entire site is going to be used for circulation, parking, anything to mitigate the traffic during this opening period.
And do you have any specific plan other than just general commercial business for that western facing lot?
As of right now, it's very difficult because we need to hold back. We can't commit to any tenants until this process unfolds and the Dutch Bros is stabilized down to a normal queuing.
And what do you expect that time frame to be?
I can speak on that. We have a few shops in the area right now, and I would just give perspective. After week 2, we start to see it back significantly, like slow down significantly. And then at week 6, I'll give perspective. One of my shops that opened 6 weeks ago were 50% less busy now at week 6. It's just the hype in the market in the first couple of weeks, but you see that mitigate pretty quickly.
And then my last question is, could you highlight the area, especially, pedestrian access wise for anybody traveling from the schools?
Can you see the cursor on there? Probably.
Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect. So Jason, are you controlling that?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Trying my best.
So on the Saratoga side, we have a crosswalk going from the south to the north. It goes north of that DB parking area and then cuts into the site and then further north across the drive-through. It will be a differentiated pavement material, so it'll be clearly marked. In addition to that, we are installing a 4-foot high open concept fence along that southeastern boundary in order to direct all the students through the sidewalk and the pedestrian controls that we have in place.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions for the petitioner?
Yeah, I just had a few questions about the turnaway people. So if we have people coming in from Ogden and from either direction, and they're trying to turn, well, no, they can only come in from the west. And then they're turned away. Where do they go? So they'll just go straight and they'll be fine. If they're coming in from, like, I'm still a little confused, like what, coming in from Saratoga, or we're still coming in from Saratoga, correct? So if they're turned away at Saratoga, where do they go?
So yeah, so all traffic during this opening period is going to be directed to enter via Saratoga. So the entrance on Ogden, that right-in entrance, will be closed.
So if they're coming in from the north on Saratoga
Mhm.
and they're turned away, where do they go?
I mean, likely they'll be directed to continue south. Just keep driving south.
And if there's a line of cars delivering kids to the schools, where do they go?
They likely would, have to use
I mean,
some
where
of the
do they,
side streets to head
seriously,
east.
where do they go? Once they go down Saratoga, where do they go? I don't see how they can get out of there without causing more trouble.
So right now, the traffic controls on Saratoga to the south of the site, there's no parking on either side of that roadway. So there's no parking in most of either side of that roadway. So that road should be navigable by these cars going to the south. Also, you have the turnoff, the next street to the south on the east side of the street over by Scooby's. You can redirect right back to Ogden Avenue there.
You're talking about going down Sherman? That's what I thought.
Sherman's one way? No.
Okay, it's one way further north, east of Prince.
Okay, other questions for petitioner, Mr. Lincoln?
Some of the other facilities that have opened recently in the Chicago Metro, what are the highest car queues that you've had?
So it's hard to compare to our Melrose Park, I think, is the one that you're referring to as the closest to the city. And so it's hard because that was our first one in the market. And if you compared the Chicago market to, Nashville or Dallas, Fort Worth, these other markets that we've been into, once we open multiple locations, our average car stack at grand opening is about 35 to 40 cars. But due to Melrose Park being our first shop in the area, we did see about a 65 car stack. But I don't foresee that happening at this location due to us having at least 10 other locations open prior to this location being open if it is approved.
Is Melrose Park the only one we have open in Chicagoland right now?
Chicago, closest to city, yes. Our surrounding is, we have Valparaiso, Crown Point, Indiana, but those Munster, Indiana, those are still 47 miles, Rockford, Illinois. And so we'll open New Lenox and Buffalo Grove before the end of this month. So those will be the next closest to the city.
So for Valparaiso, and you think you said Rockford and then Munster, what were
yeah,
those
and Crown.
queues on their opening?
Yeah, opening day, like Munster, I think that's a perfect example of what this could look like. Our average car stack we fit in our lot is 32 cars, and we stayed in our lot almost the entire day.
When will the Darien location be approved or constructed?
We're really close to breaking ground on that one.
So that would be potentially completed prior to this one opening.
Yeah, because that one's only 4 miles, and we're a little bit ahead of planning in that one. So that one, if I could guess, will be open before this one.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I think one thing I'll just touch on is the traffic turn away. We don't plan for us to turn a lot of traffic away. We should be able to mitigate our line in our traffic on our lot. That's just a worst case scenario. But I don't foresee that being an issue at this location.
And if I could ask another question. So you said something about a minute. Was that a minute from pulling into the lot to getting your beverage?
A minute would be on average if you're grabbing the drinks from the window and leaving. So if there was 40 cars in line, times that by a minute at tops, you would be in line for 40 minutes max,
Oh, yikes. Okay.
which we obviously don't foresee that, but I'd like to give you a good average so that you're not anticipating 15 seconds every time. But we do see an average of 10 seconds a car when the drink is ready.
So when it's winter and you have people like waiting, is there a problem with exhaust and all that fun stuff? Like, do we have any mitigation strategies there? Has that been a problem?
For the cars waiting in line for the exhaust.
I mean, I know we're all driving electric. I am. But what if we're not?
Almost there. We have not employed any measures for exhaust mitigation on the site, but it'll be an open air drive-through.
And aren't there houses like a lot away?
The nearest home is 2 lots to the south. So not directly adjacent or contiguous, but one more down to the south.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for the petitioner?
More. On the specific plan we're looking at right now, is the bottommost roadway, is that the replacement to the vacated alley in your proposal? So what the 2 lanes coming in from Saratoga, they're following the like reconstructed alley that eventually will be part of the agreement with the neighboring property?
Yes.
So earlier we were talking about how if cars can't get in, they're going to be sent to parking, but the parking you show is blocked by the drive-through. So what parking are we going to send them to?
It's a good question. Allie?
Yeah, I think there's 2 things. There's public parking nearby that we would use. Another way we've done this before is, as you can see, there's like 1 to 2 cars until you can get to those parking spots. We would allow their space for them to park and encourage them to walk up those spots available.
Have you also thought about, so it looks to me like maybe 1, 2 cars can fit in that right turn slip lane onto Ogden, but you also have a path where cars can go out onto Linscott as another potential right turn, or maybe a left turn if they can ever make it on Ogden. If you have 2 cars blocking the exit to go onto Ogden, how are other cars going to be able to take that other route, to get out? It looks like you could have 2 cars and block the whole exit. Is there a strategy for that? Because I see that you have the hatched lines where people kind of have this exit lane to get out, but then it narrows back down and there's just a spot for 1 car to make that wide, to make the split. So what happens then?
Would it be fair to suggest that you would have a traffic management person at that location as well, redirecting?
I don't know. I'm asking you.
Oh, I thought you were saying yes. I'm like, yes, that's what we would do. So we would have the traffic mitigation when you're exiting the building. They can go left or right, as you can see, and they'll tell them which one to go to, as well as having the traffic controller at the beginning of the line to help mitigate the traffic line.
And there's a traffic light at Saratoga and Ogden right there, which will help create breaks and gaps for people to get out of there too, I think, which will help a little bit.
Yeah, and I would just say on that, our Munster location that just opened has a light in literally the same space. And it's actually really nice because you can get a lot of cars out while that light's red. And then when it's turned green, we're ready for more space in the stack.
And then I think my question is going to go to Kimley Horn. Did you run traffic studies at peak hours for the school traffic that is the huge concern here?
Yes, so we did collect data during the school pickup and drop off window. So that's earlier in the morning I think we did from 6 to 9 a.m. and then earlier in the afternoon. So we started at 2 p.m. and went all the way to 6 p.m. So we have data for the morning drop off and then the afternoon drop off, which is typically earlier than your evening commute period, which is starts around 4 and goes to like 6.
And so you're referencing commute period because your past has shown that's when the people are coming to grab a coffee and go.
Yeah, I would say Yeah, morning hours are more busier than kind of your evening commute. Most people are not grabbing coffee when they're on their way home from work. They might be stopping perhaps like after lunch on the way back to the office, so a little bit earlier in the afternoon.
Thanks.
Anything else for the petitioner?
I have another one too.
Go ahead.
So related to the vacated alley, we've had a number of the public comments we received so far via email. We're talking about how they use the public, or currently it's public, use the alley to cut across. There's not a lot of connectivity there. A lot of the streets, you've got the Herrick Middle School, so there's not a lot of grid connectivity in there. Some people use that to cut over to Saratoga to get to the light. Are there in any of these agreements for that alley to be reconstructed after this initial period where it's one way in only? Is that going to be allowed for public use in perpetuity, or could it theoretically be shut down, this new reconstructed alley, and not be allowed for that?
That's a good question. Right now, the cross-access agreement would only be unilateral for the building owner to the south, directly to the south. Realistically, it could be shut down, but I don't think a scenario would ever exist where it would be, because that would then inhibit traffic to the two businesses, buildings. Part of the development, we want more unfettered access to the site, not a reduced amount.
So I just want to clarify this a little bit. So based off of the site plan that you have here, looking at just, sort of Google Maps, the existing alley is going to include both of those lanes all the way through. And there's just going to be that 4-foot fence to the south that's going to kind of separate that, your property line from the neighbor to the south.
Yes.
But there is no closing off of that alleyway. Essentially, the queuing line is still just pretty much the alley.
Yeah, the alley is going to keep running. It'll be substantially similar to what it is now, except repaved and curbed.
Okay.
You will have an access point down to the south in line with the Ogden curb cuts. And then you'll have your two Linscott and Saratoga ingress egress points.
Okay. Thank you.
So the blue lines are not a fence.
No, those are cones for the grand opening plan.
And only for the grand opening?
Yes.
But the grand opening is maybe 4 weeks or whatever. But once traffic normalizes, the cones go away.
Are the cones there 24/7 or only at the peak hours?
That's a good question.
Only when needed. So we take them out, we put them back in only as they're needed. So if we're not in the alley, there won't be the cones. They won't be out there at all.
Okay, gotcha.
In the app plan, once stabilized, this is the image that's posted up here right now. This is what the site will look like and function once we've stabilized and we're done with the grand opening plan. So you can see that alley runs all the way through to both sides.
So the plan is then everybody is coming in from Ogden? Is that what we're saying? No. Or that you won't have a huge queue coming in from Saratoga?
Correct. You'll be able to come in from Ogden, Saratoga, and Linscott.
Yeah, the first plan we saw was the grand
Okay,
opening
gotcha.
when it's being blitzed with traffic and the cones set up and the stacking all the way out to the property line. But that's not the long-term everyday plan. Once it normalizes, this image that's up here now is kind of what's anticipated.
May I ask a question?
Mhm.
Have you considered not allowing the entrance on Ogden and just having Saratoga as the future state?
I think you should answer that probably.
I think we want to provide the access on Ogden because it gives us the flexibility to capture the traffic off of Ogden and send it right back onto Ogden without any impact to Saratoga or Linscott. There, as you guys know, there's a lot of traffic traveling on Ogden Avenue. And part of a coffee shop business is you want to locate on these busy corridors and get people into the site as easily as you can and back out of the site as easily as you can. So that's what the right in, right out driveway on Ogden is designed to do.
From a business perspective as well, from a marketability standpoint for tenancy, we're also going to need that Ogden Avenue curb cut. So it's important both from a traffic circulation standpoint, but also from a marketability.
A question for you regarding the ingress from Linscott. Does it seem like that could potentially be an issue if you're stacking cars off Saratoga and they're coming down the alley and then all of a sudden somebody comes in from Linscott and tries to join into the line? I feel like that could be a potential issue even at your opening. So would it be possible to, okay, so you do have that as an exit only. Okay, that's my concern because I thought you had just said they could come in from Linscott as well. And I was like, well, that would.
Only after grand opening.
Okay,
Yeah.
so at some point, mostly for that next building access, right? Not just necessarily, because I could definitely see that becoming an issue if somebody's trying to get into the line that way.
Agreed.
Okay, thank you.
I think they have the benefit of not having that western tenant there yet to be able to use that property to get past this initial grand opening rush.
Agreed.
So they can spill over there and use that and as they're showing here, dictate what traffic comes in there because they don't have another tenant that's trying to get their traffic in there.
Right, thank you.
So I think the other plan that you showed did show like some parking with the west tenant.
Yes. Let me get back to stabilized site plan. So we have parking along the western side of the ingress from Ogden. And then we also have parking along the entire north side of the proposed alley vacation, future road.
And that building is scored like it's two tenants. Is that correct?
Yes, we would prefer to have two tenants in that building.
Anybody else? Mr. Lincoln?
So I'd like to get back just to the overall relief that's being requested, which is quite a bit. So specifically like a planned use develop or planned unit development, intended to accommodate development that's difficult, impossible, it doesn't really fit in the normal zoning code. What about Downers Grove's current zoning code? Are you not able to work around to build this? Why do we have to make a special carve out in this spot so that you can be there?
That is a very good question. I believe that it's not just the zoning code, but it's also the site and the location of it. This is a very difficult area to redevelop in because there's no assemblage and the depth of the lots are very difficult to come by. So what tends to happen is you have segmented ownership across multiple different parcels. We're in a very unique position to where we were able to assemble two long-term owners of properties that just happen to be exiting at the same time. In order to do that, though, we still need to get a building design, a building footprint, a site plan that makes sense here for the site.
Any other questions before we go to the public? No? Okay, thank you. You'll have an opportunity to come back once we get past beyond the staff report.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we're at the public input portion of the meeting. Once again, there's no sign-in sheet. You can just kind of make your way to the podium here, and if you could start with your name for the record and try to keep your comments to 5 minutes just so that we can make sure that everybody in the room gets an opportunity to be heard. We would appreciate that.
Will do. Hi, my name is Dr. Don Provenzali. I happen to occupy the property immediately south of the proposed development. And I have some very serious concerns about traffic. I don't know if any of you have actually been to the location in Melrose Park and seen how many cars are actually need to be absorbed. It's stunning that the parking lot in And Melrose Park is vast. And the cars literally snake 2x2 all the way through the entire parking lot. I cannot envision any way that we're not going to have gridlock. And in particular, we also occupy the parking lot behind our building, which I use for staff parking and for handicap parking. I don't see how a handicapped person is going to be able to exit my back parking lot and travel west on Ogden Avenue. There is no way if there are cars there, and if it's made one way in the alley. So essentially, it's denying me access to my property. Likewise, I have a parking lot in the front of the building, and the entrance for the parking lot is probably 100 feet off of right where the parking attendants will be telling people to go elsewhere. They're going to go down 100 feet. They're going to turn into my parking lot in order to turn around. I'm going to have people turning around the entire day. So I just don't see it as being a workable solution. And that's about all I have to say.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
My name is Karen Klickman. I live on Saratoga, just north of Chicago. I have a question for Dutch Bros. After the grand opening, will cars be exiting onto Saratoga, or will they continue to go to Linscott all the time?
If you can address your comments to us, we're
Oh,
going
sorry.
to keep track of all the questions that come up.
Okay,
And when they come up at the end of the staff report, we're going to have them collectively respond
okay,
to all these questions
Okay.
at one time.
sorry. So that's one thing I don't understand. On the grand opening diagram, it looked like the traffic was being routed to Linscott. Going forward, I'm wondering if there will be exit onto Saratoga as well. The thing that concerns me the most, besides the impact to the school traffic, Saratoga up by Ogden is very narrow. There's 3 lanes. There's a southbound lane, there's a northbound left turn lane, and there's a northbound straight and right lane. These are all very narrow lanes. And if you're turning onto Saratoga, you have to be really, really careful because it's very easy to nick something or run the curve or something. I'm concerned that with all the incoming traffic, there's going to be more people turning onto Saratoga. And I just don't see how there's not going to be a lot more accidents because that is a nasty intersection. And add to that, school buses turn right onto Saratoga off of Ogden fairly often. They can't turn right if someone is in their left turn lane. They have to sit there and wait for the left turn lane to clear before they can turn. And it seems to me that if Dutch Brothers is exiting onto Saratoga, which I'm not sure is going to happen, but if they do, there's going to be people in that left turn lane all the time. And so I think school buses are going to be impacted into that. I think it's going to make it harder for everyone to turn south out of Saratoga. And that intersection is bad enough now that I already avoid it in the morning between about 7:30 and 9 o'clock because it's already kind of a nightmare. I think it's going to be even more of a nightmare if we allow this to open. So I'm very, very concerned about traffic. And there is parking along Saratoga by the practice field. There are almost always cars parked along there. So saying that cars can just go south, I'm just not sure that that's a good solution. And I think that's all. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Good evening.
My name is Joan McGuire. I've lived in the neighborhood for 3 years and a few months. I'm pedestrian. I cross the street at Ogden and Saratoga 10 times a week. I can't understand why there's a variance for the alley even being considered. I go to the senior center, which is the township center at 4341 Saratoga. We have many activities where people can't even find parking to attend. But I don't understand the alley being vacated for this business. It makes no sense. And I think when they say they're exiting by Linscott, they're going right into Ogden. Ogden is a very busy passageway. And mostly, this is a very highly traveled area for ambulances. You would not believe the number of sirens per hour per day. I can't imagine throwing that into the mix. 2 schools, one in 2024 had a population of 308, no. Well, anyway, there's both Herrick and Pierce Downer School, and they're attached by that alley in an emergency. There are collisions on Ogden. It's just a bad idea. There's Starbucks just 2 blocks to the east. I don't understand the need for this type of traffic problem. I go out to Iroquois in Ogden. I think that's a 7 Brew. And that's joking mess out there. At least they had the land for the setback and stuff, and they had the fallback in front of the office buildings there. But there's no kind of space here. And with that, Mrs. McGuire will say goodnight.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Good evening. Scott Richards.
A little dismayed to see this proposal come up for that area. I live south of there, down Oak Tree Towers, and I use Saratoga all the time to go back and forth to Ogden, to Jewel. I know what the traffic is like at that intersection. Why anybody would consider this property suitable for this type of business. I'm not against the business. It seems to be the trend we're seeing lately. I don't understand it, but that's anyway. But that parcel, it's just not a good fit for this particular business. The 2 buildings that are on the corner now, of course, had no impact on traffic up there. This is going to be the far end of the scale. You're talking about stack up of 30, 40 cars, whatever. And that intersection of Ogden and Saratoga is very, very busy. And I just don't see the need for this at that intersection. It's true. The buses it will be a factor for them because they come out of the school parking lot and most of them head up to Ogden Avenue and stack up there at the lake. There is parking along Saratoga. I see it all the time. Now, somebody had told me, because I questioned, I thought, and a lot of cars along the athletic field for the high school on the east side of Saratoga facing north. And I had questioned somebody about, well, where are they coming from? Because the school is close. And I was told that it's the township building. I don't know if it's true or not. I know they do furnish meals for folks. And I was told that's the reason for those cars. But trying to go north or either direction, when those cars along the east side of Saratoga, it gets a little tricky. You got cars coming opposite traffic, and then I'm trying to go north, and it's a little tight fit in there. And then you want to add this kind of traffic. Bottom line is this does not fit that property. I'm surprised that whatever marketing studies they did, why would they think this is a good location for it? It's going to have a very negative impact on everybody around there. I personally say keep looking and find another location because this one's not it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead. Good evening.
Hello, my name is Trisha Cantalina. I live very, very close to the proposed site. I just want to begin by saying that my concern is not Dutch Brothers business by any means. Many residents would actually support the economic development and would welcome new businesses in Downers Grove. My concern is whether this particular location is appropriate for a high volume drive-through focused operation. The applicant's own traffic study acknowledges that portions of the Ogden Avenue and Saratoga Avenue intersection already operate at loss E during certain periods, and that existing vehicle queues can exceed available storage length. In other words, there are already times when traffic is operating near capacity. Given those existing conditions, I question whether adding a 2-lane drive-through operation is the right fit for this corner. I'm also very concerned about the timing of the traffic counts. The study relies on data collected in December of 2025 and June of 2026. December does not capture many fall and spring school activities, and June does not represent typical school year conditions. How were traffic impacts from athletics, extracurricular activities, special events, and other seasonal school traffic patterns incorporated into the analysis? Another concern is the location itself. There is a reason many high-volume drive-through coffee concepts are located within larger shopping centers. Shopping centers typically provide multiple access points, internal circulation, larger parking areas, and room to absorb vehicle queues before they reach public streets. This proposal places a 2-lane drive-through on a corner lot where traffic interacts directly with public roads, nearby schools, businesses, and redesigned alley circulation system. Even with the proposed traffic control measures, stop signs, stop bars, and circulation changes, I remain concerned about whether the site will function as intended under real-world conditions. In fact, the number of traffic modifications being proposed suggests that this location presents unique circulation challenges. If demand exceeds projections, what specific safeguards are in place to prevent queues from affecting surrounding streets, access points, or redesigned alley circulation pattern? Finally, I ask the Commission and Village Council to consider not only the traffic model, but also the lived experience of the community. More than 700 residents signed a petition, and more than 100 residents have submitted comments in opposition. That level of concern suggests that there may be site-specific issues that deserve careful consideration before approving a use of the intensity at this location. I respectfully ask you to carefully evaluate whether the traffic and safety impacts have truly been addressed and whether this corner is the right location for a high-volume drive-through operation. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Bruce Rhodes. I live right on Saratoga, 3 houses south of Grant. Been there 30 years. And I've been a real estate broker in the area for 46 years. So I've got a little bit of understanding with this. I'd like to have that drawing put back up there, if you would, please. Can you hear me now? Okay. Okay. All right. Being really familiar with this whole setup right here. First of all, I want to say welcome to Downers Grove, to Dutch Bros. I've done some research online and I like a lot of what you're about. So it'd be great if we could have you in our community, but I don't believe this will be a location that's going to work best for Dutch Brothers or for the community. We have several things that I could see right now, as was mentioned before, the 3 lanes on Saratoga Avenue, especially as you go past the high school, when they do park along that fence, you cannot. There's a lot of people. We have a lot of seniors in our business, in our community. Me being one of them. Going down that street when there's cars parked there, it can be pretty scary for some of the people, especially if some of the students or whoever's parked along that fence are far from the curb with their vehicle, and you don't want to go moving cars. You wait for the guy to come past all those cars. That's a major backup when that occurs, and it occurs all the time. Looking at the Saratoga entrance, if that remains open when the grand opening is over, you're going to have people coming around from Ogden Avenue going south. I don't know how many cars you could fit in, but probably about 4 or 5. Anybody who gets stuck in that queue coming in from the north to turn in up against the traffic that's going to be going north, they're going to totally gridlock anybody coming from Jewel down Saratoga to get into the neighborhood. Anyone turning left off of Ogden Avenue or right will be totally stuck if they can't get into that lot like immediately. If there's any kind of blockage at all there, it's going to back up immediately most of the day. The other thing is your exit going on to Ogden Avenue to the right and the one coming in. I don't know if you tried this with your traffic study, but Ogden Avenue backs up past your exit quite often. Almost every light that changes during regular business hours will back up at Saratoga. So people will be waiting in line down Ogden Avenue, which means anyone on Linscott trying to exit your property can't get onto Ogden Avenue, and forget it turning left. You're allowed to do it, but I do it sometimes myself, but it is extremely difficult. You got to be kind of a lead foot to get out to that middle lane. You rarely get an opportunity to cross all lanes and go west on Ogden Avenue. So as I see it right now, and I can understand as a realtor that you'd like to, you got that extra piece of property, hats off to you for being able to put two parcels together by two different owners at the same time. That's not easy to do. But that property to the west, if you develop that into something else, you're going to have the in and out of the customers coming into those properties and still have your establishment going. The only way I could see this possibly working, you got to leave Saratoga alone. It's too narrow of a street. It's congested all the time. You've got all the school students, the buses going into there when school's in session. And if you took the second development you're planning on doing, if there's a way you could put into your study to see if it's profitable for you to be able to figure out using your entire property as a place to hold the queue of the cars so that they could stay off at Saratoga. But now you still got to solve a problem. When you come out on Ogden to go east and the light is red, those cars back up very quickly and they will shut off your access point to Ogden. In the meantime, if you're knocking out a car, you got 40 cars in there and it's going to take 20 minutes to get all the cars out. I think if I understood you correctly, that's a couple, that's a lot of cars getting backed up after they've got their purchase and they've got your product. And then it goes down to one lane and now you're going to turn off on Ogden Avenue and go east because you have to. And if that light is red, the whole system backs up. So you go on as Linscott and you fill that up because they can't go anywhere because it's backed up at the Saratoga light. Out of all the places we have in town that might be able to accommodate your business, this is not a good location. In my quick looking at what you have right here, I just think it's going to be a massive gridlock. And the other question I would have is if this ever did get approved, would there be a way that the city or the village can say that, all right, if this doesn't work in the future, we can pull the permit to be able to utilize this as it is, because this is going to be a problem as I see it right now. And if anyone wants to contact me and tell me, talk to me about it, heck, I'll even go over there and walk the properties and stuff with you. I've driven through those parking lots hundreds of times, so it's an area I know real well. So thanks for listening. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Is there anybody else from the public who'd like to speak? Yeah, I think somebody was.
This is Dr. Don Provenzali again. Right now, during the school year, here at Junior High has a number of cars lined up on Saratoga already, and I see them in front of my building along Saratoga for picking up kids from school. I don't know if anybody realizes, but Herrick is going to increase their enrollment 50% next year. So there's already a line of cars on Saratoga every morning and every afternoon. And I can't see adding this many cars to it. I think it's going to be an absolute gridlock.
Thank you. Good evening.
Hi, my name's Colleen Kramnick. I live on Saratoga Avenue. I have lived there for 30 years. And I am familiar with Dutch Brothers from a traffic standpoint. Since we are originally from California, I've seen many of these Dutch Brothers and the impact that their traffic has not only on the parking lot, but the nearby streets. And I appreciate all the consideration that's going on to have all of the queuing on the property. I appreciate that. But you're still having those cars coming in and out of Ogden, in and out of Saratoga. And as many people have mentioned already, very narrow streets there. I'm not sure if the traffic person was aware of what the dentist just mentioned is before Herrick is ready to dismiss, they have their gates closed and parents will line up and park on the west side of Saratoga and effectively block the street because you also have the parking on the right side. So we're already impacted by the dismissal and the arrival of Herrick. As previously mentioned, also, 6th grade is going to be added to Herrick this year, which will increase the number of parents and kids in the area around arrival and dismissal. Clearly, that's an issue. There are kids, pedestrians walking, not always using the best judgment. We have cars, parents, we have people trying to get to Jewel. We have so much traffic in and out of that area that as a resident in that quadrant, I have to avoid it completely already. So I am concerned with the additional traffic that this business will cause. And like I said, however the flow within the actual parcel, I appreciate the thought that went into that. It's just the matter that, all of that is going to spill out into our streets and our neighborhoods in one way or another. So I respectfully ask you guys to reconsider moving ahead with this as possibly not the best location for this type of business. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Mary Kay Holmes, and I just want to make sure that they're considering the township buildings there. There is a very active senior center there that every day, Monday through Friday at least, there's cars in and out. The activity changes hourly. So there is a lot of activity. So there's a lot of movement of cars in and out of the building there. And very often there's not even enough parking for one of our bigger events. So I'd like them to consider our seniors coming in and out of that township building. And also Pace buses will drop people on and or going in and out of our parking lot as well. And of course, you got the fish pantry there too. Individuals coming there to collect their food items. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. I don't see anybody making their way up here, but is there anybody else who'd like to speak at the public hearing?
I was just waiting for everybody else there. So good evening, Commissioners, Mr. Chairman, Brian Gay, Downers Grove Economic Development Corporation. Just wanted to quickly, I'll keep my comments short here this evening, but just wanted to let you know that the EDC did work with the applicant, Dutch Brothers, over the last year, have vetted this site. And to answer some of the questions regarding why this site, there are very few lighted intersections along Ogden Avenue, I believe 6 in the 3 miles that starts on the east end to the west in Downers Grove. And when you look to cite this type of business in Downers Grove on Ogden Avenue, this is the type of site that you're looking for. And I think to the applicant's credit, they took the time to not only try to engineer a site that kept all the stacking on the site, we're also talking about 2 to 6 weeks in total of the kind of startup program. And I believe the representative from Dutch Brothers also made mention that really those are the 6 weeks that everybody kind of talks about. They're reviewing that right now. They've seen that happen in their newest location here closer to the city. And then to their point, by the time this location is open, there should be 8 other locations within the Chicagoland region that will help kind of take off some of the pressure on the Ogden Avenue site here. It's not going to eliminate it all, but they've done gone above and beyond, in my opinion, to try and mitigate as much of that risk as possible. And they've worked with the village, the property owners, and have tried to take in as much public comments on that is possible. Real quick, a couple of other things too. I also want to commend them too. I think it wasn't mentioned, but it was in their presentation. If you look at their site, they took in additional data specific to the school districts. They made sure, working with the applicant, we made sure that they did capture as much of that end of year student population on Saratoga, making sure that we were there and for street counts, car counts in the mornings and in the afternoons. I was out there myself and kind of saw some of it. So absolutely understanding kind of some of the concerns there, but again, trying to mitigate as much as that risk as possible. The other thing too is that up until this point, we've always kind of talked about the worst case scenario, which was Seven Brew in Naperville. And I've heard horror stories, and every time we talk about a coffee user in the market, everybody brings up Seven Brew. Well, Kimley Horn, the applicant, actually took into consideration that Naperville location and are supplying for that startup program. That first 6 weeks, they're supplying 40 spots. That's more parking spots than that Seven Brew location in Naperville. And again, I believe is appropriately kind of planned for that standpoint. Couple of other things too. When we talk about traffic on Ogden Avenue, currently there's 35,000 cars, more than 35,000 cars that travel that way every day. What we're talking about is maybe, in addition, a few extra 100 cars a day going into and out of this site. When you look at it from that perspective, it's a small percentage. It will affect the area, but again, I believe it's properly mitigated to help alleviate as much of that as possible. And in closing, the last thing I will mention is that the EDC did review this, as I had mentioned. We did give it our unanimous support, and that has the full backing of the EDC and our executive board. So again, would appreciate your support on this and happy to work for you guys and bring more economic development opportunities to the village. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else in the public who would like to speak at the public hearing for this item? Last chance to speak at the public hearing here.
Just one other thing to maybe add to this.
Can you give your name again? So
I got Bruce Rhodes. Okay, Saratoga Avenue. Fish Pantry. Tuesdays and Fridays, their parking lot is full and they do have spillover. So they add it with all the other activities they do. So it certainly should be considered if it hasn't been considered in the study. And one of the things I would recommend, perhaps they try, if you probably have a big connection with a lot of people. Why don't you put 20 cars in the empty parking lot of the jewelry store and let one go out on Ogden Avenue at the pace that these cars are supposed to be able to be turned out from your establishment, and see how well it can get into traffic at different times of the day. Especially, I'd say try it during the rush hour or the morning school hours or after school. But maybe even try it and just see, is it really feasible that you're going to squeeze out anywhere from Linscott or from on Ogden, either way going right on Ogden Avenue, to see what kind of flow you can make. And going on Saratoga, if you turn left onto Saratoga from the lower drive there, it's going to be, if the light is green at Saratoga, you got a few very short moments to get across. But if it's red, you're going to back up, and it backs up and chokes that off by Chipotle and stuff all the time. So you won't be able to go left. So you go right. And now you have nowhere else to go once you pass the first intersection there until you get to Grant Street, which is, my house is right after that. And so a lot of your coffee purchasers are going to be using Saratoga to get back into town on their way back after their purchase. There's not a whole lot of tie-in to Ogden at that place other than Saratoga. They won't go to Main Street and drive down Main because that's busy in itself, and it's now one lane too by the high school, most of the way all the way down to almost downtown there. So would ask that you stick around in our town. We'd like to have your business. I like what you're doing, but at the same time, I don't know how this is ever going to work. It's going to be a real challenge. So thank you again.
Okay, thank you. Okay, is there?
So it was sorry, do I have to say my name again? I apologize. Trisha Cantalina.
Yeah, so the people taking the minutes know who's speaking.
Oh, I'm sorry, Trisha Cantalina. So it was mentioned previously that the customers typically spend about 1 minute in the drive-through, but based on their traffic study, they said it used an average vehicle service time of approximately 4 minutes and 54 seconds in its analysis. So since those assumptions produce very different results for stacking, I'm a little confused with, that's a very big different time frame. So I just asked the commission to clarify what the assumption will most accurately reflect for peak hour conditions. That's based on their analysis.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anybody else? Staff report.
Thank you. Carter Moran, staff planner, Village Downers Grove. Tonight presenting the case of 26 PZC 0020, a request for a special use for a drive-through, the establishment of a planned unit development, zoning map amendment from B3 to B3/PUD, commercial re-subdivision, and the vacation of a public right-of-way. The subject properties at 1205 and 1219 Ogden Avenue are Zone B3, General Service and Highway Business. Properties are located on the south side of Ogden Avenue between Saratoga Avenue and Linscott Avenue. The petitioner is requesting the special use establishment of a PUD, the zoning map amendment from B3 to B3/PUD, the subdivision, and the vacation of a public right-of-way. Notice was provided to all property owners within 250 feet of the subject property, in addition to posting public hearing signs on the 3 rights-of-way around the property, and the publication of a legal notice in the paper of record. At the time of publication of the staff report, staff have received 95 pieces of written correspondence in opposition to the proposed entitlements and subsequent development. As required by the zoning ordinance, a separate neighborhood meeting was hosted on neighborhood 21st by the petitioner. A summary of the meeting can be found on page 68 of the overall agenda packet. This exhibit shows the plat of survey and the boundaries of the existing lot lines and village-owned right-of-way. The existing buildings are shown in gray. 2 existing access points are located on Ogden Avenue, with additional access points on Linscott Avenue and Saratoga Avenue into the existing village-owned right-of-way. Subsequent to the demolition of the existing buildings and their associated parking lots, the petitioner proposes a commercial re-subdivision. The proposed commercial re-subdivision would create 2 lots of record, the boundaries of which are shown here. The 2 lots would include the vacated public right-of-way south of the subject properties, adding 20 feet in depth to each property's southern boundary. A utility easement will be maintained across the entire area of the vacated right-of-way, as well as a cross-access easement, which would also extend along the lot's shared boundary line. The first lot to be developed as part of the proposed improvements would be Lot 2 of the proposed subdivision at the corner of Saratoga Avenue and Ogden Avenue. The petitioner proposes a drive-through only coffee shop and associated parking lot improvements. Proposed access points are indicated with red arrows. A right-in, right-out access point in dark blue is proposed as the sole access to the site from Ogden Avenue. The driveway leading south from this access point would be located in the cross-access easement. 2-way access will be maintained from Saratoga Avenue. The proposed coffee shop and pedestrian canopy are shown in light blue. Walk-up orders are placed at the south of the building, and drive-through orders can be picked up on the north side, except during conditions when they're having drink runners run drinks to customers. The drive-through lane is indicated in red. It contains stacking for 20 vehicles within the lane structure itself, as well as the bailout line stripe to the north of the window. And the drive-through line does not include ordering equipment, as employees take orders on foot. Pedestrian crossings are indicated in orange. The building can be safely accessed by pedestrians and bicycles from Saratoga Avenue, Ogden Avenue, and Linscott Avenue using the pedestrian crossing to Lot 1 of the proposed subdivision. Bicycle parking is included south of the proposed building, nearby the building canopy. The proposed trash enclosure is shown in violet. It is accessible from the building using the pedestrian crossing network. And finally, a 4-foot open design fence is proposed along the south lot line where it intersects with the parking area at 4336 Saratoga Avenue. This is shown in light green towards the bottom right of the drawing here, the southeast part. Site landscaping is indicated in green here, including landscaping along the site boundaries and on parking islands throughout. The second lot to complete development will be lot 1 of the proposed subdivision, which includes a commercial building shell for a restaurant user. The red arrows indicate access points to the site. The right in, right out access point at the northeast of the site is the same one as shown on the drawings for lot 2 that you just saw. As mentioned, this is the only access point from Ogden Avenue. Two-way access will still be provided from Linscott Avenue. A depressed curb is provided where access currently exists to the parking lot at 4337 Linscott Avenue. The proposed building and seating patio are shown in blue and magenta respectively. 31 parking spaces are provided between lots 1 and 2 of the proposed subdivision, meeting the village's requirement for a food service establishment. The building setback from the western lot line is 5 feet. That's along Linscott Avenue. This is the only deviation required as part of the plan unit development. I'll get to that in a table in a little bit. The proposed pedestrian crossings are shown in orange. As shown on the previous drawings for lot 2, you can see that pedestrian and bicycle crossing where they can safely cross the parking lot using that proposed internal connection, as well as a new crosswalk along that right in, right out barrier. The trash enclosure for lot 1 is shown in violet there. And finally, an 8-foot privacy fence is proposed along the south lot line from the southwest property boundary until you get to that depressed curb. That's shown in light green along the south lot line there. Site landscaping for lot 1 is shown in green here, including perimeter landscaping along Linscott and Ogden, as well as throughout the proposed parking lot island around the trash enclosure. As mentioned, the proposed deviation included in the establishment of the plan unit development is the reduction of the required building setback along Linscott Avenue. The petitioner proposes a 5-foot setback where 25 is otherwise required by the municipal code. The petitioner's rationale for the proposed reduction is included in the table provided here and in the materials attached to tonight's agenda packet. The north and west building elevations include blue and gray siding and metal awnings. The proposed pedestrian canopy extends to the south from the building over the walk-up ordering window. Seen here are the south and east building elevations. Signage is not included on these elevations currently, as it'll be reviewed separately by staff, but must meet the requirements of the municipal code. When it comes to the comprehensive plan, it offers some guidance about land development uses and other sort of unique characteristics of the context of this application. For land use and development, specifically regarding the land use plan, commercial uses should be located in areas where they'll have a regional draw of a corridor, where they will benefit from access and visibility without significantly contributing to traffic or impact on nearby residential areas. On the economic development side, when it comes to some local commercial nodes, we look for developments that would promote and encourage the improvement and rehabilitation of older buildings and areas which are or are becoming functionally obsolete or undesirable. And then the plan recommends that the village should continue to encourage reinvestment into existing nodes that integrate into the surrounding neighborhood, allowing residents to easily access businesses via a short walk or a bike ride. Regarding the revitalization of commercial centers, the plan encourages us to continue to work with local developers to revitalize outdated structures when community preferences change, as well as to continue to identify and work with property owners of underutilized properties to reinvest and revitalize, as well as promote innovative retail concepts that will add vibrancy to the commercial landscape and attract consumers. Another recommendation is that as redevelopment opportunities arise, the village should collaborate with developers to consolidate and share parking areas where it's feasible to discourage excessive surface parking lots. And finally, the recommendation is to continue to partner with private developers to promote and reposition existing commercial centers, even in areas with challenging site conditions, to adapt to evolving retail habits and consumer preferences and enhance economic vitality. Criteria for right-of-way vacation are included on this slide. Those for the approval of the special use, the zoning map amendment, and the approval of the plan unit development are shown on the following slides. Staff finds that the standards of approval have been met and recommends approval of petition 26 PZC 0020. A draft motion can be found on page 55 and 56 of tonight's agenda packet. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Questions for staff?
I have one actually. Is it possible for these two lots to be consolidated into one?
Anything's possible. That's not the request in front of you this evening. It is the desire of the petitioner to subdivide into two lots. And that's the request we have. If it stayed as one lot, an additional deviation would be required through the PUD process because you're only allowed to have one principal building per lot. But it is my understanding the petitioner does desire to have two lots of record associated with this development.
Okay. Would it be potentially feasible to, because they don't have any specific business set for that additional lot on the west side, would it be potentially feasible for them to coordinate the build currently for their initial 6 weeks? Maybe instead create a small green space area, which would be really great for some of the kids in the local area. Maybe allow for food trucks to come in that area and occupy that space and make that more of a community sort of social area that they could then introduce themselves into the community, and then past that 6 month or that 6 week point when they have their highest traffic, maybe then work on converting that back if it seems reasonable to do so.
I think the petitioner is listening to that request and I expect them to respond back to that when they come back.
Thank you.
Well, I was going to go another direction on that, Commissioner. If the lot one is not being developed right away, why isn't that used for the backup of the grand opening traffic? So that's my question that I expect that will be addressed in a minute. Question for staff here. I've been looking at the Google Maps of this, just trying to get situated, and this might be old, but it looks like, and from the pictures that I saw from letters and that the lot directly south of lot 1, 4337 maybe, is empty. Is it vacant also?
It's the parking lot for,
Hold on a second.
it's the parking lot for the building at 4336 Saratoga. So although it is a separate lot, it is used as a parking facility for that lot.
Because it looks like the parking for that building, which on my map says Prodental, is on the east side of that building.
I think they have a front and rear lot.
Okay, so that lot is the entire width from Saratoga to Linscott?
No, I mean, the building, the dentist office building is on 4336 Saratoga, 4337 Linscott. The property to the west that you're referring to, their parking lot is entirely occupied by that parking lot.
But who owns it?
The dentist's office.
Okay. And, this isn't a question for staff, but just I'm looking at the site there and all the concerns about Saratoga and wondering if petitioner can talk about, have they looked at flipping the lots and having the traffic more on the Linscott side, having the coffee building on the left side or the lot 1 side? Just noodling, trying to make this work.
I just want to go on the record as I agree with your, the idea of them keeping that queuing traffic in the entirety of the lot for the first period of construction or, opening. But that was my original thought as well. Just to try to reconfigure that layout a little bit better, that maybe something they can adjust later on, but to keep the majority of that traffic within their property lines. And then my other other question is there any requirement for the bike parking? Because being so close to the schools and everything, there's obviously going to be a lot of bike traffic, and it only says they only have 2 spaces available.
This is a situation where because the coffee shop, like all of its internal space is employee only, they don't have any parking requirements per se for customers. So all of the parking on site, all 31 of the parking spaces and the 2 bike spaces provided are counting towards that, the restaurant space on the other lot, essentially.
Since it's a condition of approval too, since we don't know who the tenants are going to be, and they are tenants that would have to be permitted in that zoning district, which is B3, that can change the number of bicycle parking spaces they can have. So we put that as a condition until we know who the final users will be if this is approved.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for staff?
Can you explain why we're creating a PUD?
To accommodate that deviation on the west side, the setback deviation on Linscott.
So we do have to have a PUD for deviation? Like every time we have a deviation, we have to have it as a PUD?
It's a typical development request that we do see on Ogden Avenue, especially with right-of-way vacations, which have been consistent with several developments in the corridor. It's unique enough where we introduced the idea of using a PUD to give it certain development rights. With the PUD, again, it's like its own zoning district that's specific to the site with specific conditions and phasing in this case and how it gets developed too. So it was appropriate for this request, and it's what the request is in front of you again.
Let's say we didn't have the PUD and did the deviation. I guess I'm trying to figure out what would be the actual consequence if there wasn't a PUD. I mean, so I'm just trying to figure out what is even other than just roping the deviation into it, what special anything is being granted because it has the word PUD.
Use the PUD, and that's how this should be reviewed.
Okay.
Is some of the justification for that have to do with all up and down Ogden Avenue for commercial lots? They don't have a lot of depth. So they have to lay things out a little bit differently. And a lot of times these narrow commercial lots abut residential uses. So a lot of those convert to PUDs so they have a little more flexibility to make these.
Yeah, in certain cases, there are deviations that are required in this one. There is one with the setback too. There's also a phasing component to this PUD, which is appropriate that we have, I would say, a little more teeth to be able to do that for a PUD versus just a general special use or a map amendment on there too. And then with this, we have additional provisions and conditions that we can place on the PUD as appropriate for the development in front of you. And as you can see in the staff report, there are several conditions as part of the draft motion on there too that was unique and specific for this site.
And one more question, just to address one of the concerns from the community members. If this goes up and this, ends up creating a huge issue with traffic or gridlock or some issues there, what is the village prepared to do in that situation if that does occur?
Well, they would be especially if there's a spillover onto Saratoga, that is a violation of the conditions over there. So there is penalties in our code that we would enforce before we even get to that point. We do like to work with businesses, our property owners, our residents and we do have a plan. That's what's in front of you this evening to help with that grand opening. But then we do have the means of what gets approved as part of the ordinance. And if we have to go that way, unfortunately, there is penalties involved with that.
Thank you.
So I guess back to the PUD. So it sounds like you kind of answered some of my questions. It's if we did not have the PUD, we would not be able to put as many of these stipulations, like you must, do this lot first, followed by this, change this. If that was not there, we couldn't actually put those stipulations in place?
It would be more difficult to do that, and this is the vehicle for that.
Thank you.
Anything else for staff? No? Okay, we're going to go back to the petitioner. So there was a lot that was thrown out there. So a few common themes. I'll let you start off, addressing, what you heard and responding to those comments. And then if we have anything on the list here that I don't think you picked up, I'll throw that out there too.
Thank you very much. I'll start with your comments. Bike parking, I think we're good adding more bike parking. I think that's something we would acquiesce to immediately for the western portion. I think Dutch, depending upon how that lays out, I don't know if they have the opportunity for that, but something we're willing to explore as we get that second phase up and running. Green space or using it for traffic. Currently, right now, that lot 1, we are using it for traffic flow because we're taking away those parking spaces on the eastern portion, a small snippet of the landscape island and the trash enclosure for lot 1. And then I'll compare them together. So on here, you see us cutting through that trash enclosure that we'll have to go back and then rebuild and recurb at a later date. So as of right now, we're incorporating that western portion as much as we can without double building it out to too large of a degree. Right now, we already have an increased expense on ripping out that landscape barrier, the trash enclosure, and then rebuilding it. We're committing to paving it and then bringing the sidewalk pavers further west in order to meet that sidewalk. This was the best in between we kind of got to as far as build out on the front end, satisfying the removal of the RE/MAX building, and then also that space when you demo something in Downers Grove, I believe we have to seed and blanket or sod it after how many? It's like 30 days.
3 days of no construction activity.
So it'll just be a standard that once we remove, once we demo, and we're flat pad, we're going to have to sod that in the interim. Whether that takes 2 weeks to 6 weeks, whether it takes longer, that will have to get sodded out there. So kind of a hybrid between the two of the commissioner's statements, which was green space or traffic. We've adopted a little bit of both of those, if that makes sense.
So the green space, though, just to be clear, is not usable to the community. It's just doesn't look as bad, right? And keeps the dirt in the lot.
It's a good question. I think we're going to have to verify what that means from a site civil standpoint, from curbing, gutters, sidewalk. I would love to say yes, but without making sure that we're ADA and all of that compliant. But I would love to. I'd love to put a few picnic benches out there.
What about Commissioner Everhart's proposal about switching the location of that versus, it being more on the west side, lot 1 versus lot 2, so that it would alleviate some issues around Saratoga?
So for 2 reasons. One is a qualitative, emotional. Dutch wants to be at the hard corner of Saratoga and Ogden. It's one of the reasons why this site was selected. But then number 2, the eastern portion of this site has a larger depth. So we're able to achieve a larger stack, a larger traffic flow circulation patterns on the eastern portion that we're not able to do on the western portion. So naturally, it lends itself to the east.
But if the buildings remain, I get the corner, but the access came in from Linscott instead of Saratoga. Has that been an option that's been reviewed?
So we have ingress and egress on both Linscott and Saratoga once stabilized. So there's 2 phases to this, as you guys have been listening to it. And phase 1, which would be this grand opening plan, that's only for that brief period. Once we're stabilized and we're up and running at the stabilized volumes, Linscott and Saratoga will be open ingress and egress to the site.
What if it was only Linscott? So I think the big thing that it seems to be emotional here is coming down Saratoga, that Saratoga is really the key problem, especially for that grand opening. And depending on when the grand opening occurs, if it's during school year or not, or during summer vacation or, winter vacation. If that shifted to the west, instead of stacking anything on the east and, hearing the comments from the public about people coming in and turning around in their yards and their spaces, the extra parking at the different retail around there, like a Chipotle and that they're going to be impacted. Because I know if I was going to the coffee place there, I wouldn't want to go through the drive-through. I'd go and park at Chipotle and walk over, theoretically, if I was doing that. But I can see where there's, the parking, really, parking over there, that is going to be impacting the neighbors, the surrounding.
I will give you at a high level and then I'll turn it over to Justin for that. But Saratoga is a lit interchange, whereas Linscott is not. The appropriate measure here would be to maintain that Saratoga access point because it is a lit interchange that is effectively controlled. And I think we heard that the Linscott exiting back onto Ogden Avenue can get a little hairy going westbound.
So is it out of the question to have a signal at Linscott then, Linscott and Ogden?
That would
Not out of the question.
No, that is out.
It is out of the question.
That's an IDOT.
Too close.
The
Okay,
village
thank
doesn't control that, so we would have to go through IDOT for that. And I live just north of this. My entire life, I lived just north of here, over behind Dorhofer. So I'm very familiar with the site. My niece goes to Herrick, so I'm familiar with the pickup drop-off as well. I think the way that this site is set up, we looked at Linscott, we looked at everything. We've been working with the staff for quite some time on this because of the concerns around this grand opening traffic plan. And for a lot of different reasons, shutting down Saratoga is just a non-starter for the project. And do you want to add to that?
Sure, I can. I think to kind of help address, if the queue were perhaps to get to Saratoga and we were during this grand opening scenario, funneling people south and telling them they couldn't enter the property, the plan would be to essentially funnel them south and then have them go east on Sherman Street to then circulate back north and get to Ogden Avenue. So the intention wouldn't be to continue them south along Saratoga into the neighborhood. There's a relief valve on Sherman Street to get back north to Ogden.
And is there a signal at that relief point?
No, so Sherman turns into Prince and heads north and connects to Ogden. There's no signal there, but we would anticipate they would make a right turn.
So you anticipate that, but is there going to be someone from Dutch Brothers standing down there, sending them down that road, or are we just guessing that they're going to turn that way?
I think that's an operation.
Yeah, I think that one for us, if it's needed, we'd absolutely have a traffic controller right there. I think when we talk about the traffic mitigation plan, they can stay as long as we need them or it deems necessary. But we will, if we need 4, we'll have 4. If we need 2, we'll have 2. And so whatever that deems necessary to be good partners in the community.
And to stop them from going through the other parking lots?
Yeah, so I think that's one thing to touch on. Dutch Bros, I don't know if this sounds weird, but Dutch Bros is new to Chicago Metro, but we are a very focused drive-through. So to your point of walking up and getting coffee, we get those customers, but we have an order ahead system. So a lot of customers actually, a big percentage of our business is drive-through, and they'll place an order, mobile order, so it's ready. On arrival, they roll in the line, they get their drink and they leave. And it's more of a quick stop rather than a stop and hang out. And so I think with the movement of the traffic, it helps mitigate that. And our goal is to be good partners with the community members. Our goal is not to cause a disruptance in it. And so to the point of like the doctor's office and everything that is next to us with the township, we would make sure and mitigate, hey, don't park there. We want to make sure we're being good partners as well, and putting up extra signage if that's needed, or putting up whatever it is to mitigate, or have somebody there to make sure that we're being good neighbors, because that is the goal for Dutch Bros. We're not just trying to be a business to be put up. Our goal is to be good partners in the community.
Can I expand a little bit upon the uniqueness of
This
this?
whole segment is really your opportunity to respond to everything you've heard so far. It's not intended to be more back and forth, but this is your opportunity to use as you please.
I just want to put out there that this is a corporately owned Dutch Bros store. They are very different than Seven Brew, which is a franchise where you have individual operators that are separate than the corporate ethos. Here, we have the corporate parent that is dead set on branding, imaging, and that's the reason why they wholly own all of their stores, is control over those properties. So you have the full weight of the Dutch Brothers publicly traded company, making sure that you have the resources available to the local community in order to achieve a circulation route that makes sense for everybody, similar to what Ally just touched on. Thank you.
So there's a couple additional traffic concerns that I'd like to respond to. So we had the mention of the traffic counts for the study being conducted or collected in December 2025 and June 2026. The reason we went back in June 2026 is because school wasn't in session. So we wanted to capture data when school was fully in session to understand, if there was any major variations versus December. The counts were generally comparable. Along Ogden Avenue, you saw about similar volumes. Saratoga was a little bit lower in December, as you would expect, because nobody was at school. In terms of how different they were not different enough to really result in any material changes to the actual analysis. So whichever numbers were the highest, we used. In terms of accounting for seasonal activities, the study has been reviewed and approved by the Illinois Department of Transportation, or the state DOT. So they, have looked at the access configuration, have looked at how the traffic interacts with the light at Saratoga, and they do concur with the findings in the study and the conclusions. So we didn't see a need to adjust for seasonal activities, neither did the DOT. So presumably, they're not at a high enough variation that adjustment is warranted. And then lastly, I think there was some discussion along the service time. So when Ally was up initially describing service time, she was mentioning 1 minute at the window. And then it was brought up that we had 4 minutes. Trisha brought up we had 4 minutes and 54 seconds in our study. So those are kind of two different numbers, and I'll describe them. So the 1 minute at the window, I think that's a goal for Dutch Brothers in terms of after you've placed your order and you're approaching the window in the drive-through, it's their goal to get you through that window process in a minute or less. So we don't use that number or time in our calculations in our study. The 4 minutes and 54 seconds is a number that we went out, observed, and collected at the Seven Brew in Naperville, and that was the service time for their drive-through. So the service time is what we use in our queuing model calculations, and that is from the minute or from the second you place your order at the staff that's in the line to the second that you leave the drive-through. So we recorded that at Seven Brew because we wanted to represent a conservative scenario in this study. We believe that Dutch Bros drive-through functions more efficiently, so we figured if we're collecting and using the information at Seven Brew, that our projections would be conservative here. So that's where the 4 minute and 54 seconds comes in. That's the service time at the Seven Brew drive-through.
Do you also touch on the duration of pickup at Herrick?
Yeah, so I believe the duration of pickup at Herrick to the south there is a 15 to 20 minute window in the afternoon. You might have, more parents arriving before school releases, which is where you kind of see that queuing on Saratoga there. But again, I believe there is no parking signs on Saratoga. So I think it is a 15 to 20 minute window of impact, after which largely it's dissipated. I think that was all.
Can I ask what that is at drop-off time in the morning? Because typically people want coffee first thing in the morning versus the afternoon.
Right. Yeah. So I think I was talking about pickup in the afternoon. So
Right.
parents might arrive a little bit earlier, wait a little bit longer, drop off in the morning. I believe it happens over a similar window of time, but the amount of time that a parent would likely spend is probably less because they can pull and drop off and leave.
Okay, anything else you'd like before we get into discussion up here?
No, I think we're good right now. Do you have anything else?
No, thanks for
Last
the
chance.
opportunity.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, heard from the public, petitioner, staff. So, discussion up here.
To start.
I'll start and then we can just go from there. First of all, I want to commend Dutch Brothers doing what they could with an imperfect site, and trying what they can do within their power to alleviate the stacking. I do still have some concerns on Saratoga at drop off and pickup time for the junior high and high school because traffic does essentially gridlock there at times. So I'd like to see something a little more certain about how to get, if there is a backup, how to get them off of Saratoga quickly. So they've done an admirable job of trying to shoehorn this in on a very imperfect site. This is probably better suited for a large parking lot. So I'm a little on the fence relative to the traffic flow.
I would agree. I personally don't feel that the criteria for approval is met here because of the issues with the traffic, and I mostly can't support it because I cannot say that it isn't detrimental to the health, safety, and general welfare of the community. With the pedestrian issues, the issues with seniors as pedestrians, the general traffic volume that is within that area, the fact that Herrick is adding an entire sixth grade class. Just in general, there's a lot of things. And even with the addition of an additional restaurant later on that will add to that traffic even further, I just can't see that it's not going to be an issue for the people in that specific area who live there, but also people who have to take their kids to and from school and the kids in school themselves. So unfortunately, I can't support this at this time, the way it's presented.
Yeah, I've been really on the fence about the requirements that were part of our jurisdiction to look at. And there's a reason that the drive-throughs are special use. It's because of just this kind of thing, the concerns with, the health and life safety around the area and hearing from the public. There's so many things going on here, and we all are familiar with this area. And, I do not doubt that, that Dutch Brothers or Dutch Bros is a good, company to have in this area. But this lot just seems so tight, so landlocked for this situation. And I'm really not seeing it as being desirable or convenient or necessary for the public in this area. I'm not seeing it quite as a benefit, and maybe we're blinded by the fact that we are focusing on the grand opening situation. But for right now, I just can't in good conscience say that it meets the criteria for me. And I know they've gone through, and I really appreciate it, they've gone through great lengths to be as conservative as possible. But I'm not sure that they had all of the information either. You know, like the Herrick 6th grade, I didn't know that, you know, and there's just, I would like to see some other solution, if, you know, maybe a different way of routing the traffic in this area, to feel like I could approve it.
No, I'm just really conflicted on this one too. I kind of came into it a lot more skeptical about it. And I think a lot of the concerns I had actually were mitigated, but then and even the sheer volume of public comments that I had to read over the weekend and now, I mean, there's a lot of common themes in there, some things that are really more noise than signal. You know, we have another coffee shop down the street. That doesn't matter here. The business market will figure it out, you know, and I don't like that company specifically. It doesn't matter. You know, I mean, there's a lot of that stuff that's just not in our purview. The business market will figure it out. But when we boil it down to these specific requirements, some of the things just didn't seem to be articulated very well to me. And even though a lot of things were answered, I just am not getting enough of the check marks I'd like to see. Even with respect to the right-of-way vacation, you know, a lot of times I'm not super swayed that we need to have all these alleys, but in this case, that alley seems to kind of serve a purpose. There's not a lot of other roads there. And I would like to see some kind of a stipulation that they must leave it open for public use, you know, as a cut through to get to the light, you know, and that's a challenge there. No mention of compensation, and that's in one of the requirements of right-of-way. Was there an amount of compensation as a condition? So apparently we might be giving it to them for free. So there's challenges there that are kind of bothering me a little bit. Then back to the PUD, some of the concerns there were mitigated because it sounds like that's really just in relation to the setback. I'm not as concerned about the setback. But then some of the rationale, we want to maximize the site. We want to create room for additional development. Well, anybody wants to do that. If we didn't have our zoning code, people would maximize sites and they would put 3 or 4 buildings on a site or make them taller. And we have the zoning code for a reason. So I don't know that in and of itself is a good enough rationale, you know, to make these special, you know, just because we want to have more business on the site. But, well, then everybody does. So why is this special? Tell us why this site's special. So I'm having trouble with that. A lot of the other stuff is pretty straightforward, and, you know, it matches the existing use and zoning. Yes. Will it affect, do the current restrictions restrict property values? I mean, they may. It's kind of an awkward layout, and maybe allowing some flexibility would help with that. But really, when you get down to things like vacancy as zoned, has it been vacant that long? I'm not sure that it's been vacant so long that I feel like we have to make a lot of special exceptions to that lot. Value to the community. Some people, sure, I have nothing against, I don't drink it, but I really have nothing against those kinds of coffee shops. Could be valuable, maybe not. Probably consistent with the comprehensive plan. It really comes down to the health, safety, and welfare. And, you know, I think sometimes people have can have some NIMBYism, and I just don't want it. It's going to create this big rush of traffic in the first 6 weeks. I really do think it's going to mitigate after the first 6 weeks, and especially when they open more facilities, but I don't know. I just feel like this is still not the right place. We had other coffee shops of similar caliber, and they were really great spots for that. If you were going to have a traffic challenge, those lots were better. This spot seems really challenging. I mean, and I really commend their effort. Like, there's so much work you can tell went into figuring out the best way to maximize the flow. And that's one of the things that mitigated it the most, but I still am just not sure it's enough. I don't think it's their fault. I think it's this spot's fault. I just don't think it's going to work. So I think I'm inclined to vote no.
I share a lot of everybody's concerns, and I'm trying to rationalize in my mind how to make this happen. I mean, I love the very pro-business, pro-development, pro-commercial development. I just kind of wish that Saratoga was just a little wider, you know, a little more conducive for traffic. So, yeah, it's difficult when you have 2 schools there, and I drive past this every day, and you know, I just see the traffic challenges, and Oh, those are my concerns.
Yeah, I don't doubt that there will be some traffic challenges during that introduction period. But I feel like this site and this project, as it's shown, has the benefit of mitigating that from day one, that a lot of other projects like this don't have that luxury. And I think it was more intimidating than I think it really is, because the first version of the site plan we showed 40 cars everywhere and cars spilling over onto the other lot. And they showed us the worst case scenario out of the box instead of the normal plan. And then after that saying, hey, in this initial period, we have provisions here to accommodate the additional traffic. So I believe that after that initial 4-6 week period, whatever it is, and things normalize, and I look at just this plan, the way it's laid out, I don't see the traffic issues with the plan after the introduction period or the grand opening period. I think this flows and works better than another very, very, very close coffee place with a drive-through that is much trickier to navigate than this is. And this has built in a lot more provisions for stacking, cars circling around, more access points out onto adjacent roads. You know, there's 3. I too feel like it would be nice if Saratoga was a little wider. But I don't know that, that's really my only reservation. But I think, looking at the post grand opening plan, I don't really see issues with it, but I don't doubt that when it first opens, I don't understand the rush of, I never thought in a million years that coffee places would generate such traffic and people waiting in line and driving forever to get a cup of coffee. But here we are. I'm inclined to support it. I think that they're taking a lot of provisions to alleviate the initial inconvenience of some of the traffic and the traffic movements. And like I said, I think that they have taken a lot of measures to make this work after that initial period. And even during the initial period, they have the luxury of additional accommodating that stacking, the movements and controlling that vacated alley to really limit traffic movement a certain way to get it to flow through that peak period. And then when it normalizes, there's plenty of access points in and out of there. I think it's a good problem to have when you have a popular business and a lot of people, want to go there. I think that's a positive thing. And like I said, without beating a dead horse, I think there's plenty of steps here taken to mitigate that initial volume.
Yeah, I certainly agree. There's no doubt that they've put a lot of steps into it. I'm having a hard time thinking it's enough. And trust me, I would love to have a business like this bring in the tax dollars. That's why I'm so conflicted with it. It's like I keep trying to think of, is there some other provision or some things we can move around in this and have a revised plan, or maybe we could find a compromise, and I'm having trouble coming up with what that would look like. And I think that's where I'm having the most trouble, is I can't come up with a middle that I would be inclined to vote yes at this time.
I agree with you on that. And that's why I said at what we are being presented with at this time, I can't support, but I'm hoping that they continue to work with this and work with Downers Grove, because we would love to have them. But I can't say that the economic benefit is going to outweigh the potential negatives to the community. So that's why I can't support this specific plan as it is.
And I think, the public does not support it at this time. And I'd be happy to look at other, maybe other traffic options, or other ways to ease any concerns that the public has about how this is handled. You know, like, I don't know. I'm not going to say what I'm thinking, but just like, how do you show that this isn't a problem? Because we are all thinking it is, and we're trying to make it not a problem. So there's something here. Either they have to convince us with something, a different layout or a different graphic maybe, or mediums or discussions that can show that this isn't a problem. Right now, I think it is a problem, and the public is not in support of it.
I think some people are assuming some of this traffic volume is going to be going south through their neighborhoods and down some of these trickier areas, but I got to believe that most of this traffic, that all ways out of this place, there's 3 ways to get out. I got to believe 90% of them are going to Ogden, and that all this traffic generation is happening from
But there aren't there's not 3
vacated
ways to
alley
get
north.
out in the grand opening. There's only 2 ways.
No, there's the exit to Linscott as well, but it's exit only.
Yeah, well,
Right, it's just Ogden and Linscott. You can't go out.
right, but so in the grand opening period, there are only 2 ways out, but they're limiting how many people are coming in, which should lessen congestion. Because just as there are limited ways out, there's limited ways in as well. So it's
Yeah,
more.
I'm still not convinced on how that
Well, that's
works.
okay. That's okay.
And assuming that for the most part, this is going to be people driving eastbound on Ogden in the morning are going to be the primary users of this. So the ingress and egress is predominantly going to be Ogden Avenue. And I don't have concerns about, there are 35,000 cars a day on Ogden. We have far too many curb cuts on Ogden as it is. Is this going to really move the needle one direction or another? I don't think so. My concerns always, I'll go back to Saratoga and the people who pick up and drop off to school. Could there possibly be times where that exit is not used during school pickup and drop off times, making Ogden the primary? That's something that would probably slant my vote.
And I think this, if I'm not mistaken, I think this takes 2 entrances and exits along Ogden, and it's reduced to 1. So it simplifies the number of movements on
less curb
Ogden.
cuts. Yeah. So if we could do something to help mitigate the problem with, say, I'm thinking drop off and pick up at Herrick, who is getting 300 more students this year, and the people that park on the street at North there, and they don't behave rationally. They dart across the street. There's all sorts of things happening there. So if we could find some way to lessen the impact on Saratoga, again, maybe certain times that their Saratoga exit is not being used or something like that, that would probably sway me.
Anybody else have anything they want to throw in before we look for a motion?
Is that everything?
Saw you nod.
I'm good.
You're all good? Anything else? over
Sure,
here?
just as a point of order, if there's a condition developing here, you might want to work through that before a motion is given for the recommendation. I believe Commissioner Barry had an idea. Is that something that the commission would be interested in forwarding to the village council, excuse me, village board, with a restriction for that entrance during drop off and pickoff with schools in session? Is that what we're hearing? You guys got to talk through that a little bit too.
Is that what you were leaning towards?
Yeah, that's where my concern is. And traffic does stack up there. And my observations are purely anecdotal. I don't have the data. And I tried my damnedest to look through all those traffic studies, but that's on 60 pages of numbers. So I'd be lying if I said I understood everything that was in there. But based on what I've seen there, it does stack up at drop off and pickup time, especially at Herrick, where the parents are waiting for kids and things like that. So if there's something, I'd propose that. I'd say yes to it if there's something we could do around drop off and pickup time at those schools to stop the additional cars from queuing up on Saratoga there.
If you could put a condition on it that would
say maybe
that would control how Dutch Brothers controls their
Controls
traffic
the
during
traffic,
those
yes.
time
During
periods
those time
that
periods,
traffic is staging at Harris.
Yes, and they have people out there. Again, I commend them
An
for all the
alternate
work they've
traffic
done.
management plan for.
So just for the grand opening or in
The grand
perpetuity?
opening, there's going to be a pain point for a while, and I really don't see any way around that. And I'm trying to think more long-term about what the regular operations are going to be. And yes, the volume will drop considerably as more and more of these are open up around the initial fascination will run off. I don't wish anything but success for the business, but it will drop off. But even at that point, still, having people go south on Saratoga there could be problematic. So if their traffic management could address that, put that as a condition, I think it's okay.
To not direct turnaways
Down Saratoga,
south on
yeah.
Saratoga
Get
between
them away
certain
from there.
hours.
Yeah.
So if we were to put that into words, you'd be saying our condition would be that their traffic management would have to direct cars down Sherman or?
And that's the answer I don't have, because Sherman, then all of a sudden everybody's going to pop out by Diggity Dogs there, and you can't get on Ogden anyways from there because the traffic at Ogden and Maine backs up to that intersection. So it is a congested area. So
I would just say even with that condition added, I don't think that I would still be in support of this at this point.
I think I would consider something like that, but I need to hear the words to see how this would work. And I am definitely not a traffic study expert or anything like that. And
I feel like I would want to see it. I'd want to see how that worked. Ideally, I'd want to hear back from the public on an alternative traffic control. Because again, I'm just not convinced without seeing, maybe it's just me, the pictures. How does that work?
But so without solving the problem, what the solution, it sounds like, and I'm not speaking for it, I'm just trying to understand, is how they would manage turnaways at the peak school hours of drop off and pickup in trying to avoid cars heading south on Saratoga at those two windows of time during the day.
yes. Yes, the not adding to the existing, we'll call stack up at Herrick at those times, predominantly Herrick at those times.
I think it's helpful. I just don't think that it's the entire issue, unfortunately. Like I said, I would love to be able to come up with a solution, but I think it's going to require some more research and some more communication with the community. But I think that's a good place to start for sure. And I would definitely recommend to them, that they consider that at least. But I still don't think I would be in support based off of the fact that there are still other issues here that even though they've worked hard to fix them, I feel like they still need to be worked a little bit more before this lot is usable for that purpose. It's just too much congestion potentially, even after that grand opening period.
And not being traffic engineers, or at least I'm not.
Yeah.
I can't say that that's going to alleviate or mitigate the issues.
This is another point of clarification to help you folks along. We've done this before. It sounds like there's at least an evaluation of restricting access on the Saratoga side during the AM and PM pickup and drop-offs. When we've done this before, it becomes part of the record, and we will have a response prepared for the village council, where that could get evaluated by their traffic engineer and also the village's traffic folks too. So we can have that collective response for council, understand what impact that will be on the site plan. That is another way we can do this too, which we've done something similar like that in the past, where it's much more higher evaluation of limiting that access. That would be appropriate too.
So that option would, in essence, if we were inclined to approve it, noting that we feel like they need to solve,
I wouldn't say solve. I think the better way would be
have
to
a solution
evaluate.
for a response
Yeah.
to that concern.
Yep.
Or Is it pot? I just feel like we're just not necessarily making a recommendation and pushing it onto them, but we're just pushing the problem to them without addressing it. What about giving the applicant an opportunity to come up with a response for that, and we continue this today and have them come back here?
Do that also too.
And then that way they can think about it, and they've heard what the concerns are. So they have the opportunity to think about if they can come up with a solution to that and come back here one more time.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Address it instead of us trying to suggest solutions for them to address that.
my understanding that your proposal is that perhaps we vote to table this rather than what appears to be a no vote that's coming?
Petitioner can't table this. They're making that request if we can make a recommendation this evening.
No, I'm just saying that that's just an option. I'm not.
No, okay.
Just to avoid a no vote. That's
not how I meant it. I'm just saying that was our alternative that was being presented, is that we could choose that if we think they could come back with more information, as opposed to just pushing it along as it is now.
If the one question that Mr. Berry brought up was enough to make the majority of people feel okay with it, I'd be inclined to do that. But if that's not enough, then there's not much of a need to do that.
Unfortunately, I think I'd also be inclined to need more than that alone. That would certainly help. And I really do want to be able to say yes to them in our community. I would love more, more businesses. I love filling in vacant spots. I just feel like that in and of itself doesn't answer all of the other questions and concerns.
The petitioner has indicated they would not prefer to table it. They would like a recommendation to come out of this meeting.
A vote today.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, my challenge is just with Saratoga. So if there's, a way if this was to move forward with an evaluation, as Jason had stated, or if we were all in agreement with that, I would be supportive of that, based on specific times for North and for Herrick. That made me feel a lot better.
So Jason, if we don't approve it, what happens?
It goes to the village council without a recommendation,
Okay,
and they'll have to make the final decision.
okay.
They're making the final decision regardless, really. So whatever our recommendation is, that's just something else that they take into consideration.
So you can certainly add a condition, and I will continue to try to help you develop that. The other item, and again, why I mentioned, we've done this other meetings, it is on the record that it does sound like a majority, the Planning and Zoning Commission would like to see further evaluation of the Saratoga entrance as it relates to the rush hour traffic for the two schools and the township building, and offer additional remedies for that as warranted to the village council. That could be in the form of that being on the record. You actually make that condition and add it as a condition number 9 to the recommendation for the vote. So the option is yours.
I do also have a point of information. Remind me, we have to make a motion in the affirmative.
Right.
We can't do a motion in the negative and vote.
The preference would be the motion in the affirmative, and if you do not want to vote for it, you can say no.
Right.
So in the affirmative with an extra condition, is that?
If
what we're
it's the desire of the
debating?
Planning and Zoning Commission to add a condition, you'd have to verbalize it. Tried to help you a little bit here. Or note it's on the record that this wants to be further evaluated by the Planning and Zoning Commission, which we can offer that too when it goes to village council.
Yeah, I guess the key is there a condition that would push you to support?
Yeah,
it?
regardless, there should be that condition, I think. So it sounds like it'll go to the council with or without a recommendation, but I think it's important to have that extra condition clearly stated as part of the package.
Agreed.
Does that make
And
sense?
the question would be, what is the condition? That's really what we need to formulate to get to a motion to
What's your thoughts?
move it forward. My thought hasn't changed. I think that those are short-term traffic issues. And there are a lot of places out there that when they have grand openings, it's not uncommon that they have people out there directing traffic because they either have some big promotion going on or some kind of big sale, or people are just eager to get there and they get there and it creates traffic problems, and then it levels off. And I have a hard time believing that, 2 months down the road, there's going to be 40 cars stacked here at rush hour. I don't believe that. I think it's going to look more like the plan that's on the screen now is going to look, that, there'll be 15, 20 cars in there maybe, and a majority of them exiting out onto Ogden.
So how far back are our parents parked on Saratoga for pickup? Are they crossing would they be passing the access point for?
Yes.
So what I'm wondering, what I'm curious about, and what I still don't understand, and I'm not sure how to state it, is just the people coming in Saratoga during that time. They're going to be conflicting with these other cars. There's still going to be a pain point, not pinch point, well, both probably, but a pain point for everybody. You're in my way, you're in my way, kind of thing.
So does anybody want to entertain a condition that you feel would get support? I don't know that I'm hearing a consensus on that. I think this is going to be a straight vote without conditions is what I'm hearing, if I'm hearing you correctly.
Yeah, I don't think I could properly articulate something that would appease everybody's or lay their fears.
So yeah, we've already got it in the notes, our concerns.
All right.
Great.
Okay, with that, somebody want to make a motion for 26 PZC 0020?
I can. Based on the petitioner's submittal, the staff report, and the testimony presented, I find that the petitioner has met the standards of approval for a planned unit development, a zoning map amendment from B3 General Services and Highway Business to B3 PUD, General Services and Highway Business planned unit development, vacation of a public right-of-way, final plat of subdivision, and a special use for a drive-through as required by the Village of Downers Grove zoning ordinance, and is in the public interest, and therefore I move that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend to the Village Council approval of 26-PZZ-0020, subject to the 8 conditions as presented on the staff report.
Okay, motion to approve by Mr. Patel. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Barry. Roll call.
All right, Patel.
Nay.
Lincoln.
Nay.
Eberhart.
Nay.
Barry.
Nay.
Frankovic.
Nay.
Chairman Rickard.
Aye. Okay, so that motion did not pass. But that's so that's going to move on to the Village Council. And they'll hold another public hearing. They'll have another opportunity to show up and make comments, ask questions, that type of thing at a future date, which will be announced by, you don't know the date?
I don't know what the date is at this point. But like I mentioned before, just those in attendance, it's the, excuse me, put out agenda packets for council meetings the Friday before the Tuesday Village Council. Typically that's at the end of business, so after 4 o'clock or so.
Right. Okay. Okay, thank you everybody for coming out.
See most of you on Wednesday.
Mm.
You have an additional meeting this week related to the attainable housing study. So
Yeah, and reminder, I will not be there Wednesday.
And then we do have a public hearing scheduled for the August meeting. That's August 3rd. And then we might be looking for one more additional meeting based off a caseload coming up this fall. So stay tuned.
Yay.
I always love when you say we have caseload coming up.
Okay, anything
Very
else from
exciting.
staff?
That's it.
No?
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn by Mr.
Second.
Lincoln, second by Ms. Frankovic. All in favor to adjourn, say aye.
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 All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.